Hypocrisy's the best policy. Wish for change but lazily. Century of debilitation. Your evolution is a damnation. Warranties can't fix a heart. Industrialize and drive us apart. What you advertise can't rationalize. Shining a new one fix any light.
You know, one of the things I enjoy the most about hosting this podcast is when I get to sit down with players, coaches, parents, and fans to talk pucks. In this special Bench Boss Regional Edition, I chat with Alex Smith, head coach of the John Jay Indians, Gary Dworkowitz, head coach of the North Rockland Red Raiders, Frank Alessandrino, head coach of the Monroe Woodbury Crusaders, and Dean Williams, head coach of the Queensbury Spartans. Enjoy. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Trav, a.k.a. 5 Minute Major, and I'm pleased to be joined by Alex Smith. He is the head coach of the John Jay Indians. They are the 2018 Section 1 Division 2 champions, and they're getting ready to face off against the Queensbury Spartans on Monday, March 3rd. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time out. How's it going?
It's going well, Travis. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Hey, can you describe your team in 5 words or less?
You know, we're a hard-working group, dedicated, gritty, and much like a family.
Okay, and I think that sums it up perfectly. I'm going to add, along with the grittiness, physical and skilled and well-coached. So I'll add those 3 words in there, too. I really like what I've seen. I saw you play against Niagara Wheatfield in December at Witch's tournament. I saw you play against Fox Lane, and then of course I followed you closely during the playoffs and the semifinals and finals. And I really do like what I see. It's going to be a heck of a game on Saturday. Coach, can you tell us who are the players to watch on your squad?
Sure. Our top line: Johnny McEwen, David Brown, Brian Daly. Had a real good season together. David Brown had 33 points. John had 20 goals. And our second line, the green line we call it, really came on late. And Jack Brown had 5 goals in the postseason, so he's on fire.
Yeah, and I would, to jump to my next question, I would almost ask you, I guess, that green line, are those some of the players who maybe surprised you a little bit this year as far as their contributions?
Definitely offensively. We thought they would be more of a checking line when we first put them together, and they've really come together. They do a nice job working off of each other. They complement each other, and it's really been a pleasant surprise to have scoring from more than one line.
I actually forgot there was another game that I was able to watch you on. I watched you play Suffren, and I also did the DJ and the public address for the Pink the Rink game that you had against Byram Hills, and I found myself hearing John McKeon, Chase Goldman, David Brown. I kept hearing those names, kept saying those names over and over again. So it's nice to hear that they're contributing. Favorite memory or moment? This might seem like an obvious question, but favorite memory or moment from the season so far?
Well, I would say I probably have 2. One was when we beat North Rockland at Brewster.
Okay.
They had come off a tough loss against Mamaroneck the night before, and we had come off a tough loss against Ryetown. It might have been, one of the turning points for our season where we could have easily fallen to, a top team, but we battled and held on for a 4-3 win. And then the other one I would say was just the last 8 minutes of the Horace Greeley game in the finals where we let Greeley back in, got it to 4-3, and then we really kind of shut the door and didn't really give up a lot of chances at the end of the game to get the 5-3 win. Yeah,
I do have to say stick taps out to Greeley for not only taking Pelham to a 4-round shootout, overtime and then a shootout win, but then to really make it interesting, as you just alluded to at the end of the championship game there. But you obviously held on for the win, and we're moving on to the regional game. What do you look for in a hockey player, Coach?
Hockey, it's an interesting sport where you really got to be dedicated and work hard when you're on the ice at practice. We only get a certain amount of ice time, and I need someone with max effort every day. I look for guys who are skilled skating-wise, with speed, and smarts. Those are the best players to work with. Over the years, we have guys like Fraser Boswick, Lucas Prestamo, Mark Laprine to use as examples for the younger kids.
Okay. What makes a successful, in your opinion, Alex? What makes a successful hockey coach?
I think these days it's preparation. These sports seasons now are often much longer than the actual season. Commitment to the program, and I think ability to communicate these days. The kids are different, and you have to find ways to push the right buttons. Okay.
Biggest challenge you face as a coach?
At the high school level, I'm always challenged with trying to get everybody in the game. I have a big roster, and that's certainly something that we want the kids to participate. Also, during practice, maximizing our ice time. Really trying to take advantage of every moment.
Right, especially at a rink like Brewster, where it seems like every team in that area just one after the other is getting on the ice. So, can you describe the state of high school hockey in Section 1, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I first coached John Jay in their inaugural season back in '99, and Section 1 has really caught up to the other parts of the state as far as competitiveness. Nowadays, upstate teams are looking to come down here, where, even 3 or 4 years ago, I don't think they'd even think about coming down. I credit Pelham with really putting Section 1 on the map year after year. They're the gold standard for hockey programs, and we've really closed the gap with upstate schools.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. Again, stick taps out to Ed Witz for putting together those tournaments and having the Niagara Wheat Fields and the Orchard Parks and the Lancasters and some of these other top quality programs. And like you said, 3 or 4 years ago, you wouldn't think to have them come down, and now they come down on a regular basis. And more importantly, Section 1 teams are starting to travel up, to play that top competition. And again, when you look at the section, you've got, Suffern winning in 2012, Mamaroneck in 2016, Pelham in 2017. And I honestly think, based on what I've seen, because I put a bracket together at the beginning of the playoffs, and it's all screwed up because some of these top teams that I had picked got bounced in the playoffs. So I really think that it's a wide open this year. So hopefully we can get another Section 1 state championship. Favorite professional hockey player, past or present?
Well, growing up, I was a Ranger fan, and for a really long time, my favorite player was Eddie Jockerman.
Okay.
The goaltender for the Rangers back in the day. I was actually lucky enough to be in the Garden when the Rangers had shipped Jockerman to the Red Wings, and he came back and played as a Red Wing.
Yes.
It was an amazing moment, just in hockey history.
And the crowd chanted Eddie, Eddie, and he got really choked up. I remember that.
If you weren't emotional for that, you don't have emotion. And then I would say modern day Adam Graves.
Absolutely.
No one works harder than Adam Graves. Even now that his career has ended, he's still one of the hardest working guys, and I just respect his work ethic so much.
I would agree. If you opened up the dictionary and looked up the definition of class, there would absolutely be a picture of Adam Graves. As a matter of fact, after your game and after the Division I game on Saturday, I hung around for that Hudson Valley Girls High School ice hockey charity event, and Adam Graves played the game, and then afterwards he signed autographs, took pictures, just so gracious, kind of almost the consummate ambassador for our game.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to let you go, but I have one more question for you. Certainly, we've got a big game coming up on Saturday. I don't want you to tip your hat or anything, but can you kind of give us a sense as to your mindset, the team's mindset going into the regional game against Queensbury?
Sure. We're excited to go up to Glens Falls. Queensbury's home. It's their home rink. They're certainly going to have that advantage. I've watched some film on them, and they're a hard-working, gritty group. Coach Williams has gotten that program to a place where they're always competing for the state tournament every single year. And we were up there 5 years ago, and we're lucky enough to squeeze out a victory. And our guys are excited. We're ready to work hard and give them everything that we can.
I hope in this case, Coach, history repeats itself. I will be up there, as you know, sending out information, in-game updates for Indians fans, Section 1 fans that can't make the trip up. So I've been chatting with Alex Smith, head coach of the John Jay Indians, the Division II champion from Section 1, 2018. He's been nice enough to take a little bit of time out to chat with me. Coach, I'll see you on Saturday. Safe travels up, and best of luck against Queensbury.
Thanks a lot for all your coverage during the season. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
You got it. This is your boy, goodbye. This is your boy, Trav, and you're listening to the HV Pucks podcast.
It's all we know, but we're not the same. No, we're not done, something we can't think. We're just too shallow, living in someone else's shadow. Silhouettes of pretty faces. I hear a solid cries as the world crumbles before.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Trav, a.k.a. 5 Minute Major, and I'm pleased to be joined by Gary Dworkowitz, head coach of the 2018 Section 1 Division 1 champion North Rockland Red Raiders. Gary, when I spoke to you the other day after you beat Suffern, I said this is history in the making, and I really meant it because you not only did you beat Suffern, but you beat Mamaroneck less than 24 hours prior to that, and I don't think that's ever been done. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
No, great. Thanks for having me. And, thanks for all the good work with your show this year. And I know a lot of players get pumped up for it and excited, and that's what high school hockey is supposed to be about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was super excited after you guys won. I was on the ice. I chatted. I know I chatted with Dylan. I chatted with Angelo. I chatted with Luke. I chatted with Jack. Just a couple of just in the celebration of everything that was going on. It really was a tremendous accomplishment. So I guess the first question I have for you, Gary, is how does it feel to beat two top programs in Suffern and Mamaroneck in less than 24 hours? I mean, that really has to be a whirlwind for you.
Yeah, for our guys, that's a tremendous accomplishment. I mean, it's also, hats off to those two programs because, not only are they top section programs every year, but they're top New York State programs every year. And, just having been through this experience this year to try to imagine how those programs operate in those areas every year, is even more impressive. So to be able to get two wins in 24 hours against two programs like that, I would say is, truly special.
Yeah, I would use the word historic, and I don't use that lightly. I mean, you really accomplished something very special. In your opinion, I know, Gary, you live in the community. You're a part of that community. You grew up there. Can you describe for me, for the listeners, what this win means for the North Rockland High School students and the players and the community, the whole ball of wax? I mean, I honestly thought the rink was going to collapse after you guys won. I mean, the fans were so pumped up. Can you give us a sense as to what this really means to everybody?
I will say that it definitely was more about our community coming together, and it really was about hockey.
Right.
Because it was really like in the middle of everything, like our youth kids, our families, our alumni. There was a lot of happy and prideful people. And I think if you saw the picture at the end where our players were kind of pressed up against the glass,
yep,
and the fans, were kind of right there, I thought that kind of summed it up pretty good, like the relationship between the players and our community at large over here. I thought that kind of like put it in a good way.
Actually, I will agree with you. As the game wound down, I want to say there was about maybe 30 to 40 seconds left in the game. someone took a timeout, maybe it was Suffren, and I made my way over to the North Rockland fan section, and then as it got down to 10 seconds, 9, they started counting down. They started throwing those pom-poms over the glass, and again, I mean, just the sheer joy and, it just was like it's indescribable, So again, and even talking to the players and the parents afterwards, I mean, just everybody is smiling, everybody's happy. So, soak it all in and enjoy it because you absolutely, absolutely deserve it. I know it takes a lot to get a program like yours to where it is. I mean, I've been watching you guys for the last 4 or 5 years, and I say it all the time. I really like, the culture that you've developed. The growth I've seen in the program, but I know that, you have a number of assistant coaches. I mean, I made sure to congratulate all of them on Saturday, but can you tell us a little bit more about your assistant coaches and their contributions to the success of your program? Is it true they're all volunteers?
Yeah, all the guys are there on a volunteer basis. Our school district, due to budgetary, restraints a couple years back, had to kind of take a different route. So these guys are all there on their own time, own volition, and they dedicate a tremendous amount of hours, both in season and out of season to try to, support the players in the program. And we certainly couldn't have done any of this, without all those guys.
Yeah, and you know what? There's one person. Again, I'm not putting one person ahead of another, but I know Jim Mancuso joined your coaching staff this year. Can you tell us a little bit about what he brings? I mean, he has a wealth of experience and knowledge of the game. So can you just talk a little bit about what he's brought to your program, to your staff?
For sure. I just wanted to mention the other guys. John Sabalas runs our defense and does an awesome job. Chris Green, our JV coach, and fills in and helps us at practice. Scott Anderson works with our goaltenders. And then, we have Bobby Lizer, I think, who is up from your neck of the woods,
yes.
Comes in and lends his expertise with the goaltending and, I had coffee, and I just wanted to mention those guys. I just
Absolutely. I'm glad you did that.
What they do for us. With Jim, Jim and I have been friends for a long time, probably, more than 20 years. Last year, I felt like when Luke McMillan came back to us, I kind of felt like he was like the missing piece for our team. Just gave us another dimension. And, I think this year, I think Jim Mancuso was that missing piece for us. He just gave us another aspect of somebody who has, tremendous hockey experience.
Sure.
The guy's just so good at what he does. I mean, you're talking about a coach who was probably a Section 1 Coach of the Year 5 or 6 different times.
Sure.
You're talking about a guy who coached his team to 2 Final Fours, in New York State. You're talking about a guy who was in 6 section finals, won 2 sections. When Jim agreed to come over and give us a hand, it was great for me because, he had been to the places that we wanted to go.
Right.
And I think that was, extremely important for our players to have somebody to speak from that point of view, and give us that extra insight and experience that we kind of need to help wade our way through some of the tough times.
Yeah, he's definitely experienced. He's battle tested. I know he brought some of those Scarsdale clubs up to the States a couple of years in a row. And I'm not going to give away anything, Gary, but there was one Friday afternoon where I guess the games had gotten canceled for that evening, or maybe Suffren wasn't playing, and I was over at the rink, and I happened to catch a portion of your practice. And some of the drills that Jim had the kids doing, I mean, again, it just... his expertise, his experience, his knowledge of the game really kind of came through in some of those drills that I saw. So absolutely, like you said, the missing piece for your squad, and it shows. Can I ask you your thoughts heading into the regional game on Saturday against Monroe Woodbury? I know that you have a long-standing relationship. You're very close with their head coach, Frank Alessandrino. I know that he was an assistant with your program for a number of years, and that, again, personally, professionally, you guys are probably as close as brothers, I would say. I know he speaks very highly of you. I know you feel very strongly about him as a person and as a coach, too.
Yeah, I mean, we've known each other a long time. He was, in my wedding party.
Yeah.
Listen, he's a great coach. I've seen him operate in two different sports. What he does with the kids at Chestnut Ridge is absolutely amazing.
Yep.
And year after year, year after year, I know he's so much more than a coach to those young men.
Yep.
But he just cares so much about his players. We did some coaching together way back with some youth stuff, and he's a great coach. But I think more importantly, as a friend and a person, he's a Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame friend in person. You just don't find better. More caring and just dedicated to your friendships. He would be the guy that if you were broken down somewhere, regardless of where you were in the middle of the night, he would be, my first call. And I know that he would be there.
I couldn't agree more. When I graduated college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I got a job as a teaching assistant in a special education class, and that class happened to be right next to Frank's technology classroom at Chestnut Ridge. So, I've known him for half of my life, all of my professional career, and I agree wholeheartedly with everything you've said. I mean, I know there are times where he'll drive through Spring Valley, drive through Chestnut Ridge, and pick up kids that don't have a ride to practice, if they're practicing on an off day or something like that. So, he's always just giving 110% to his players. So I know it'll be a very interesting matchup. I did the public address. I know I did the public address at your Winter Classic. I had to sing the national anthem, which I'm sure you'll never forget. But it'll be a very interesting game and a very, kind of emotional game for you guys to mix it up on Saturday. So,
yeah, no doubt. And, again, I just have, a lot of respect for Frank and what he's done there in the last few years to kind of rebuild the program over there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not an easy path that he's taken, but he's owned every bit of it, and I certainly think that the players that have had the honor of playing for him, are better for it.
I would agree with that. That's a great way to wrap it up. I'm going to have Frank on in a little while, and I guarantee you he's going to say a lot of the same things about you because I know he feels that strongly about you too. So, Coach, I've been chatting with head coach Gary Dworkowitz of the North Rockland Red Raiders. They are the 2018 Section 1 Division 1 champions. They are facing off against the Monroe Woodbury Crusaders out of Section 9 on Saturday, March 3rd in the regional game. Puck drop is set for 5:45 at the Hommocks Park Ice Rink in Mamaroneck, Westchester County. Coach, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. And best of luck on Saturday. And, hopefully we can catch up after the game this weekend.
That sounds great. And thanks for all you did this season to promote high school hockey. And keep up the good work.
Hey, thank you so much, Coach. And I appreciate your support and your players' support. You guys have been great in terms of, supporting me in my efforts to just shine a light on what I consider to be the greatest sport on the planet. This is your boy Trav, and you're listening to the HV Pucks podcast. Thanks again, Coach.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
This is Brian Riley, head hockey coach at Army West Point, and you are listening to the HV Pucks podcast, available for free download on Google Play, iTunes, and SoundCloud. Now, back to the show.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Trav, a.k.a. 5 Minute Major, and I'm pleased to be joined by Frank Alessandrino. He is the head coach of the 2018 Section 9 Division 1 champion Monroe Woodbury Crusaders, and his team is going to mix it up with the North Rockland Raiders on Saturday, March 3rd at the regional game at the Hommocks Park Ice Rink. I've also known Frank for over half of my life. I consider him to be a mentor and a friend. So again, Frank, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Glad to be here, Trav. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get right into it. Can you describe your team in 5 words or less?
Young, fearless, cohesive.
Yeah, I would say they're definitely a cohesive group. You know, obviously, Frank, you know this, I do the public address and the DJ for you. And on more than one occasion, if someone felt that the goalie was run or someone felt that someone else took liberties, I mean, they're quick to respond. So you've definitely developed a supportive culture, a positive culture. So stick taps out to you for that. Who are some of the players to watch on your squad?
Our goaltender, Sam Stuber, is an interesting character and just a very hard worker. When he's on, he's very, very good. But he works real hard. Out back, we got Paul McKeown, definitely a prospect to play at the next level. Richie Monda, who was normally a forward, but because we were so banged up this year, Rich Monda, a junior, plays D for us. And we have Chris Cromwell up front, who he's got over 40 points this year. So he does a real nice job, too.
Yeah, I've seen all those kids play, and I agree with your assessment. Favorite memory or moment from this past season?
Good question. Well, I'd have to say just taking the ice in the first game this year because, as you know, our program was temporarily dropped last year.
Yes.
And then through the great efforts of the parents and the community, we were reinstated. So I would have to say one of our biggest victories was just taking the ice in the first game and having a season this year.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I was at your end of the year dinner when you got that email without, any consultation with you or with the players or with the parents. None of the stakeholders were consulted, and you guys rallied, and in less than a month, the program was reinstated. So I would agree with you that, stepping on the ice for the first time, that first game, is certainly a favorite memory. And I always like when you, ironically enough, we're going to talk about North Rockland in a little bit, but when you and North Rockland mix it up at Bear Mountain for the Maria Ferreri Children's Hospital fundraiser at the Winter Classic. And I know this year was particularly memorable because I had to sing the national anthem. We won't get into that now, but that's a favorite memory or moment for me. What do you look for in a hockey player, Coach?
Loyalty, dedication, and coachability, most of all. But that loyalty, that whole team concept, it's just so important with youth sports, high school sports. And of course coachability.
What makes a successful hockey coach, in your opinion? You've been at it for a long time, not just again hockey, but football as well. I've seen you in action with your kids, but in your opinion, what makes a successful hockey coach?
What a great question to be asking me this week. I'm coaching since '81, and most of those years, I've watched someone else coach and build a program. You want to see a great coach? Take a look at the guy I'm coaching against this week. He took a program from Rockland County over 25 years ago, and he's built a dynasty. And when you talk to him, he talks about his kids. And he talks about his coaches. You want to see a good coach? I'm coaching against one on Saturday.
I actually had Gary on a little while ago, and he was exactly how you said. He was humble, talked a lot about his assistants, talked a lot about his players, and he also talked a lot about you, Frank. I mean, it's no secret. I know both of you very well, but the two of you are like brothers. You're in each other's wedding parties. I mean, you're always together. I know he spoke very highly of you. I know you've spoken very highly of him personally to me publicly. So it is going to be a very interesting matchup. I know you were an assistant with the North Rockland program at one point. So on a number of different levels, it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be an emotional game. So what are your thoughts, as you prepare for the regional game on March 3rd against North Rockland?
Well, Yeah, and I coached for Gary for 3 years and had been out of coaching hockey anyway for a while. So he pulled me in, and oddly enough, the Monroe situation happened in the after my 3 years of coaching with him. What am I going to see on Saturday? His team is big, fast, and deep, and I know many of them, especially his goaltender, who's a great kid.
Yeah, he is. Really, Angelo is a great kid.
Yeah, and I know Angelo, and I know his older brother. They're big, they're fast. We're gonna have to take care of things out back in our own end first, and pick and choose our chances offensively. They're tough. They're tough. We saw them earlier in the year. I believe it was 9-3. And they hit a rough spot in the middle of the season, and boy, they really pulled it together. And coming down the final stretch, we're going to have our hands full. But we've got a good game plan, and we got practice tomorrow, and I think we'll be okay.
I mean, there's no question, Frank. I mean, I've watched your kids play all season doing the public address and the DJ for them, and I know that they're going to give North Rockland everything they have. And it's interesting you brought it up. Yeah, North Rockland started off real strong this year, and then they hit a bump in the road, but they regrouped. And, to knock off Mamaroneck and Suffern within a 24-hour period, when I talked to Gary, I mentioned that's historic. This is history in the making. Again, I know that there's just it's going to be a great game on Saturday, for a number of reasons, just a very, very special, matchup between the two of you. And again, he was very complimentary towards you, and I agreed with everything he said because, I consider myself to be a better person having, had gotten the privilege to know you and work with you for like the past 25 years. So
thank you very much, Trav. I appreciate that.
And I know I'm thrilled that the program is back. It looks like, because I follow some of those club hockey teams up here, it looks like the state of hockey in Section 9 in Orange County is starting to come back. I'm hoping that I know there's an initiative, there's a movement to start a girls hockey league. I'm hoping that gets some traction. So I think there are definitely some brighter days ahead for Orange County hockey, Section 9 hockey overall, and I know that you have a lot to do with that. So stick taps out to you, certainly, in your program and your parents and your players, because at the end of the year dinner last year, it looked like that was it. But you guys rallied and you came back, and I know you're going to give North Rockland everything you've got on Saturday.
Yep, it's two good programs, and we'll be okay. Orange County hockey is very strong. There's a lot of good, talented athletes. We've got to get the high school thing going. Yeah. I think the fact that Newburgh Ice Rink is opened reopened for the last 5 years, and people are starting to talk. And other school districts around the county were looking to see what happened with us, and we have a full middle school program with 25 kids. They just won their third championship in a row. And Monda and McKeown and Cromwell were all on our first modified team. So we're going in the right direction. But I think other schools in the county were looking to see how we fared, and they're going to start pushing their own school districts to do the same now.
Well, if that's the case, you definitely set the gold standard because, as I said earlier, and you know this, it took less than a month for you to get your program back. And speaking of ice time, I was at a Learn to Play clinic sponsored by the New York Rangers maybe 2 weeks ago on a Sunday, and there were like 144 kids there. The ice was packed. So it looks like the future of Orange County hockey, of Section 9 hockey, is certainly headed in the right direction. So, Coach, I really do appreciate you taking a few minutes out. I know you had a long day, and like you said, you've got practice tomorrow. You're preparing for the regional game. I've been chatting with head coach Frank Alessandrino. Great guy, mentor, coach, good friend of mine. He's taken some time out of his night to speak to me, and I really do appreciate it. Coach, best of luck on Saturday, and you and I will talk soon, okay?
Trav, as always, thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you guys.
All right, be well. This is your boy Trav, and you're listening to the HV Pucks podcast. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Trav, aka 5 Minute Major, and I'm pleased to be joined by Dean Williams. Dean is the head coach for the Queensbury Spartans out of Section 2, Division 2, and his team is going to mix it up on Saturday, March 3rd at the regional game. That's going to be at the Glens Falls Recreation Center. It's a 4:30 puck drop. I will be there to cover that game, provide live in-game updates. Dean and I did not get a chance to connect yesterday in person when he came down for the Section 1 championship games, but we are going to certainly connect in person next weekend, and we're connecting now on the phone. Dean, thanks so much for coming on. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me. It's a great show you have, and I follow you on Twitter, and I think it's a great thing you're doing for hockey, not only in Section 1, but throughout the state. I know you have a lot of followers, so keep up the good work.
All right, thanks so much, and it's a passion of mine. I'm kind of like Scotty Bowman. I never played the game. I can't even skate. I have 2 daughters that dance competitively, but this is my passion, whether it's high school, college, or at the pro level. So let's get right into it, Coach. Can you describe your team in 5 words or less?
I would probably say that they're hardworking and tenacious.
Okay.
Hardworking and tenacious group each and every day, practice and in games. So it's paid pretty good dividends this year so far.
Love it. Who are some of the players to watch on your squad?
Specifically, we have a lot of young players. We've had a lot of young players the last couple of years. We graduated 3 seniors last year. We have 4 seniors this year. So we have a lot of sophomores that we wanted to see how they would work for the first couple of months, and they've paid dividends. So they're giving us the ability to run 3 and sometimes 4 lines. So I think our sophomores in general right now are allowing us depth for our program, and our defense and goaltending. They've always been solid, and they're all returners from last year. So that really helps. So nobody specifically, but groups that are making the team have some depth this year.
Okay, great. Favorite memory or moment from the season so far?
Probably the stick game. That's usually whether you win or lose. It's usually an exciting game. It's the crosstown rival, the Rivermen, which used to be Glens Falls, South Glens Falls. They all combined and formed now the Adirondack Rivermen. So it's always a big game. It's at the Civic Center, which is now the Cool Insurance Arena. And this year we scored 4 goals in the third to win it. And then we came back 24 hours later, and we scored with 0 seconds left in the overtime to win our pink game. So it was 24 hours of pretty exciting hockey this year.
Yeah, I actually wound up giving you guys stick taps for both the stick game and for the pink game. And Monroe Woodbury, who I do a little bit of work for, I do the public address and DJ. I believe they were supposed to mix it up with Adirondack earlier in the season, but because of the weather, they were unable to make the trip down. So I'll have to check them out at some point. I'd love to come up. I'm coming up obviously next weekend, but I'd love to try to come up next year during the season and see a regular season game with the Spartans.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yep.
Who would you say is your biggest rival up that way?
Probably because of that. I mean, it was probably the Rivermen.
Okay.
We've had some really good games the last 2 years against Shenendehowa.
Okay.
So that's becoming a pretty good rivalry. But the Rivermen, we play and practice right out of the same rink, so we see each other every day. I mean, these kids are all coming up through the same youth hockey system, Adirondack youth hockey. So they grow up playing together, and then they battle it out in high school, and it's developed into a rivalry, but it's also a very respectful matchup each year where you got guys that have played together for all those years, and they bang it out pretty hard on the ice, and then there's the respectfulness in the handshake line afterwards. So.
Now that I think about it, Coach, I am going to make it a point to come see you because I've seen Saratoga play, I've seen Shenendehowa play, I've seen Bethlehem. I have yet to see you guys though. So definitely next year I'm going to make it a point to come up and come up to your barn and check it out. Let's see. Toughest rink to play in.
I'd probably say, a cut between the two of them, Salmon River and Bethlehem. Bethlehem is an amazing rink to play in. That no matter, especially on a Friday night, their student section is is incredible. But Salmon River on a Friday night, we've gone up there for probably 7 years, and it's probably the hardest rink to play in for a player mentally and physically.
I had Tim Cook reached out to me. We texted a couple of times, and I'm hoping to get him on the podcast at some point too. I met him for the first time at States last year. So
yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I'm looking forward to getting him on out of Section 10. What do you look for in a hockey player, Coach?
Work ethic. I put a ton of stock in that. I mean, we have in our locker room that's one of our key 3 statements that we have up, along with passion and accountability. But work ethic, if you don't, and I try to put that beyond hockey in life. If you're not going to work, you don't put in the effort, you can't be upset with the results that you wanted. If a player works hard and in practice and games gives 100%, then they can be satisfied at the end of the day, win or lose or whatever. They can be satisfied that they put in everything they had. So
I love it. That's a great answer. And in your opinion, what makes a successful hockey coach?
Trying to get that work ethic. So probably trying to get our school has a motto of working to your full potential, and I think that's probably for a teacher or a coach to get that full potential out of each student or player. If you can do that, it makes you pretty successful. It makes the player successful, makes the team successful, and it's easier said than done when you're talking about trying to get full potential out of somebody or have them realize their full potential. A lot of players and students don't even realize what they've got or they're able to do. So I think if you're able to tap that as much as possible, you're going to have a successful team or a successful classroom.
Yeah, I actually like that. I'm a school counselor down here in Section 1 at Suffern Middle School, and I'm a firm believer that, the young people that I work with, have the tools within them to be successful. And it's just our goal as educators, as mentors, as coaches to pull that potential out. What's the biggest challenge you face as a coach?
I think having players realize that this is how valuable a part of their lives this is. They tend to kind of live in the moment. I think we live in the moment. We struggle with knowing that everything we do positively and negatively affects the outcomes of a practice or game or season or whatever they're doing in and out of the rink. So getting them to look beyond just the moment, enjoy the moment, but look beyond it and have them visualize a season or have them visualize how they want something to happen and then working daily towards that goal. So that's probably the biggest challenge. And when you're able to do that, you usually have some success with a team.
I like that because it also goes back to some of that mindfulness that we're trying to instill in our young people.
Right.
Can you describe the state of high school hockey in Section 2?
I think it's on the upswing. We had a couple of down years, and the coaches got together and we put together an idea of having 16 and 18 wrap teams that play before and after the season, and that's gone off really well. And allowing players to the opportunity to get that extra hockey in and get that extra exposure, especially those that want to play either club or college hockey. And still be able to play for their teams. That's the biggest thing. Players want to. I think they generally want to play for the high school team, but they feel as though a 20-game schedule wasn't enough in the way of exposure. So we're able to bring a lot of those players back the last couple of years.
Great.
And so I think we're seeing a better product in Section 2.
And that's what I like to hear, especially since you're so close to us here in Section 1. Speaking of the playoffs and everything. I know the Section 2 Division 1 semifinals are today. It looks like the number 1 seed Bethlehem is going to take on the number 4 seed Christian Brothers Academy. The number 2 seed LaSalle is going to take on the number 6 seed Shaker Colony. Coach, do you have any thoughts on a possible scenario on how those games are going to go?
I've liked CBA all year. They had a time where we actually beat them, but they were lacking we had an injury to Hunter Pemrick middle of the game, and that definitely changed the landscape of the game a little bit. He's just a dynamic player, and I just think I think he'll get get going tonight, and that could be the turning point for CBA. So I like them in the first game, and then the other one's a coin flip. It's a real even matchup. You've got good players on both sides. Tyler Wilson for Shaker is one of the fastest players in Division in Section 2. He stands about 5'4", but he flies. So, and the goaltending's very comparable in that game. So, if I had to pick them, I'd say CBA and LaSalle, and then I like CBA as a champion on Tuesday.
Now, what's that old saying, Coach, about great minds think alike? I actually put together a New York State playoff bracket. Now, some of the matchups and stuff, like I had West Jenny and I had Pittsford and Churchville Chili. Those teams are all out, but my Section 2 Division 1 bracket came down to CBA over LaSalle. So that is very interesting. I'm actually going to have a couple of kids on from LaSalle that are part of an outfit called the Upstate Sports Zone, and I'm sure they're not going to be too happy with my prediction. But, it's my show. It's my show. I can do what I want. 2 more questions here, Coach, and I think I know the answer to one of them because we were talking about it before we started recording. But favorite professional hockey player, past or present?
I would have to say, I'm an Islander fan, and I love Mike Bossy back in the day. But recently, modern day, I'd say Alex Ovechkin, and I know that I'll either have my supporters or completely one side of the fence or the other on this one. But I think it's the way he plays the game. He plays fast, he plays physical, and the big thing is he celebrates with his teammates, no matter if he's the star of the game that particular night or he has 0 goals, 0 assists. His team wins, and you would think that he was the star. So I think that's what stands out about him. He celebrates as voraciously a goal that he scores as a teammate scores, and so that really lifts a team, and it it shows what a captain should be on and off the ice, a true supporter of the entire program. So I would say Alex Ovechkin.
Okay, and again, he is a very skilled player, and I like a lot of the things that you just said. He is as happy when he scores as if his teammate scores. The only thing I can't seem to wrap my head around is why can't the Caps get past the second round? And with that talent and those teams, I mean, Holtby and, Kuznetsov and, all these other, I just don't.
I know.
It's mind-boggling. You got Barry Trotz now behind the bench. It doesn't matter who the coach is or who the supporting cast is. They just can't seem to get past the second round. Maybe this year, we'll see. But
it's always a tough household. My son's a Caps fan, so we have a lot of ups during the season, and then
sure.
and then it's a bummer come playoffs. So
well, as a Ranger fan, we are selling our pieces. Jeff Gorton is holding a fire sale in the corner of 8th and 33rd, and I'm fine with it. I've made no bones about it on Twitter and in real life conversations. I think it's time. I think the window has closed. I certainly think we have some very valuable young players that I'd like to hold on to, but certainly, the Rick Nash, who was just traded to the Boston Bruins, Michael Grabner, Ryan McDonough, as much as I hate to say losing our captain, it's time for us to reap the benefits and get rid of some of these pieces while they still have some value. And that includes the fat cat in the goal, King Henrik, who has not really lived up to expectations, in my opinion. And everybody, the defense. Listen, I'm going to blame the defense because I'm late to work tomorrow. The Rangers defense was responsible. At some point, you're making $8.5 million. You've got to stop that puck. And, if you look at the statistics, he leads the league in most goals given up within the first 2 minutes of a game. And I think that's more like a mental thing than anything else. And, as Ranger fans, we're kind of to blame. We anointed this guy the king before he won anything of any kind of substance. So, but he has a no movement clause, Dean. So he kind of holds the cards. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens on Broadway. But anyway, I know I mentioned I'm going to come up and visit your team next year, but I am also going to be there this coming weekend for the regional game when you mix it up against John Jay. I am looking forward to an exciting game. I think you two match up very well against each other, and I really do appreciate you taking the time out on your Sunday, on your weekend to to chat with me. So, I look forward to meeting you and connecting with you in person next Saturday. Thanks for taking the time. I've been chatting with Dean Williams. He is the bench boss for the Queensbury Spartans. They are the Section 2 Division 2 champions, and they will mix it up against the Section 1 Division 2 champion John Jay Indians. 4:30 puck drop at the Glens Falls Recreation Center, Saturday, March 3rd. Your boy Trav will be there. So thanks again, Dean. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And
yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'll see you Saturday, and let's see if that Section 1, Division 1 championship predictions come true.
I'll let you know tonight if we're on our way.
All right. Hey, be well, my friend.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Take care.